This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the April 14th Advisory Board meeting for Phase 1. Of course, we're all virtual using GoToMeeting today due to the circumstances, so hopefully everyone is safe. We're going to go ahead and get started and start with roll call to make sure all of our Advisory Board members are present. We'll start with Deb.
Here.
Ed.
Here.
Pace. Pace. Okay. April.
Here.
Kevin.
I'm here, Director Samuel.
William.
I'm here.
And Lisa. Lisa, are you on? All right, no Lisa and no Pace. All right, we'll start with the, we have members for quorum, so we'll continue. We'll start.
Here.
Hello?
This is Lisa. I made it.
Okay, all right, so Lisa is present. Pace, did you join? All right. Okay, and we'll just remind everyone, if you can, to mute your line until it's your turn to speak. You have a question. So we'll start with Rachel with the review of last meeting minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. The last meeting was held on March 10th. The February 11th meeting minutes were reviewed and approved. There's a brief stakeholder outreach update presented by Jessica Espinoza and Chad Hutchinson. Craig Benner presented a Phase 1 OCM update. There was no financial review at the meeting. The project updates begin on page 2 with an update from DL issuance, motors maintenance, and FR.
Rachel.
Portal.
Rachel, hang on. It sounds like someone may have maybe logged on to have audio through their computer, but also through their phone as well. So could you mute one or the other?
And Janice, can you please go down the attendee list and maybe mute those who may not have done that?
And I'm sorry, Rachel, I'm going to ask you to start over, please.
Yeah, no
Sorry.
problem. No, that's okay. Okay, so, all right. So the last meeting was held on March 10th. The February 11th meeting minutes were reviewed and approved. There was a brief stakeholder outreach update presented by Jessica Espinoza and Chad Hutchinson. Craig Benner presented an OCM update for Phase 1. There was no financial review at the meeting. The project updates begin on page 2 with an update from Informatica, DL issuance, motors maintenance and FR, My DMV portal, and this continued on to page 3 with an update from SIDLIS and citation processing and renewal notification. There was no communications update. Michelle McGinley presented an update on the Phase 1 and Phase 2 development. There was a brief Q&A at the bottom of page 3, and the meeting was adjourned at 1:35 p.m. And on page 4, you can see the items that were distributed in a meeting packet prior to the meeting.
Are there any questions, comments, or corrections from any of the advisory board members? Hearing none, I will take a motion to approve. Is there one?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ed. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Same sign. We'll mark these as approved. Thank you very much.
All right, next on the agenda is stakeholder outreach, and really only two things, and both related to cashiering. We had a meeting with Grant Street, which I think Lisa participated on a few weeks ago. And as you know, from a cashiering standpoint, we can't go unless the cashier vendors that do work with the county tax collectors are all on board and have done all of their testing. So we've been trying to work through the IT coalition to make sure we're addressing any needs there. Grant Street had requested a meeting with us, which we had, and we were able to give them the information that they needed. And we also, as part of that, prior to everything happening with the situation that we're in now with the virus, we had planned on visiting some of the other counties that needed help doing transactions with their sandbox. So now we're in the situation that we have decided that we're going to try to do as much of it, of course, we're kind of forced to, as much of it as we can remotely as possible. So one of the first steps that we took with that was that we provided a video that we actually made when we were in Lisa's office during the last sandbox training, and we provided that to Putnam in order to give them the opportunity to go through the transactions or whatever. And I think they were able to get to it. Jessica's been working with them to monitor that situation. So we'll probably do the same with the other counties that we'll look at the report that we get from Joe. I don't have one for this month, or maybe I may have missed an email with everything that's going on. And I can also work with Jeff Marcy to see if we need to reach out to some of the other counties that may be having issues, and at least if any of them have contacted you, can try to do it remotely. Even setting up the sandbox. Chad is off today and the rest of the week, but even with the sandbox, I think is an easier to do it remotely. You know, if you're on the state's network, I think Lisa, with your office, we did everything remotely for setting up the sandbox. We got there, we just validated everything was working, and everything was fine. So if we can get the sandbox set up remotely for some of them, and also use the video that we provided to Putnam, who had reached out, I think we can be okay with moving forward with that as we move along. And of course, we're always going to be willing to help any of the other cashier vendors that may have issues if they've gone through the IT coalition, or if they contact us directly as Grant Street did. And we always make sure we include the IT coalition and extend that to Lisa and Scott as well to participate in the phone call, so we can keep everything moving along to try to make the dates that we have for the program. Any questions about that? All right, now an OCM update from Craig.
Good afternoon. The overall OCM Phase 1 update, we have the key risks and issues. The tax collector engagement plan is late, but we did have the meetings with the tax collector representatives, which went well. And so the tax collector engagement plan is now in the approval phase. And so that is moving through the system. We expect that to continue to move through, and hopefully we can remove that risk soon. The Orion access is one of the risks too, and that's the identification of the roles, migration of the users, and the process for the new users. But we do have the highlights are the Change Champion Network Connect monthly meetings continue. We have another one on Friday. The engagement meetings continue with all of the divisions, the bureaus, and offices, and the post-go live amendment letter process was approved. OCM has maintained continuity with their meetings and momentum with the checklist, even though we've moved into the virtual environment. And we've also started Change Champion one-on-one meetings with the OCM team now that we're in a virtual environment. We've started updating the engagement plans with the new schedule dates. And we've also got our new readiness assessment survey underway. We did our original readiness assessment survey a month ago, December, and we're right in the middle of the survey period, and that will close on Wednesday. We have the Orion override disassociate procedures, those meetings going on. And then we're facilitating meetings with TAC, FSC, and SEU phone calls. The next slide is the Motorist Services Division. Those tax collector engagement plan is under the Motorist Services Group. We continue to meet with those bureaus. The chiefs are engaged heavily in working on all the implementation checklists. We continue to work on those Orion access issues, and SEU has continued to provide training to the LDO trainers, and we're working on training the Change Champions. The engagement plans, we're scheduling the new dates with training. Like I mentioned, we also have the checklist for the motorist maintenance, the MyDMV portal, DL issuance, FR transition, and CP SIDLIS. And then the bureau meetings continue on schedule. The only thing with measure and evaluate is in amber is the readiness survey that's going on, and that's why that remains in amber. As far as OED, we don't have any current risks or issues at this time. And the highlights are that also those meetings continue, and those tasks and in progress are also all those engagement meetings continue. With DAS, the same thing. The risk, though, that's been identified is that we do have the MyDMV portal and VO running simultaneously. So we are working through that issue. And then the new schedule may conflict with other e-payment projects they have going on. With FHP, BCII has raised questions about the MyDMV portal and the need for the training prior to access, as well as the social media use access, so meetings continue on that. And then their summary and highlights as they continue to work on the meetings with us, as well as participating in all of our Change Champion meetings with us also. With ISA, there's no risks identified. The knowledge transfer risks that we have been removed, and all of the developers are getting trained on the systems and the new apps. We continue to meet with the ISA leadership on all of our monthly meetings and meeting with TAC and MS on handling calls. And that's it for phase one. Any questions regarding OCM? Okay, turn it back over to you, Terrence.
Next on the agenda is the financial review. Janice?
Good afternoon. These financials are as of March 30th of this year. Our phase one total project is $37 million. We are in our final year of funding at $2.3 million. Currently, our actuals are $1.4 million, and that's all basically in contracted services. I think our expense budget that was at $20,000, I think we're only going to end up spending about $8,000 of that. Budget to actual fiscal year to date is $1.4 million with a 0% variance. And month to date through March is $160,000 with a 0% variance. We have $883,000 left in this budget year to spend. For phase 2, just to give you a quick overview, our total for phase 2 is currently $44.5 million. The current fiscal year is 13.7. We have actually spent 5.7 through the month of March. You can see a very large amount in contracted services. A lot of that is dependent upon some of our software services, our software contracts that are coming up that are contracted services. Excuse me. Fiscal year to date is 5.7 with a 0% variance, and month to date was 579,000 with a 0% variance, and remaining funds is 8.038 for the rest of the fiscal year. Any questions?
Okay. If no questions for Janice, next, I believe we move into project updates. And first on the list, I believe, is deal issuance.
Thank you, Terrence. For the deal issuance team, our team profile has stayed pretty consistent. We have several developers who are still committing time to helping us get through regression testing and get through our tech debt and close out our performance testing. So no full-time people working, just part-time to get to those numbers. Our testers is pretty consistent. From an enterprise testing perspective, we had 41 performance test scenarios to complete. When I put this together, we had 2 in process. Actually, one of those has been wrapped up and we have 1 left that SIPs. We're in the process of getting through testing on that first regression testing, UAT testing, because if you remember, that's one of the items that was moved to regression testing before we complete the performance testing on that one. Our security testing is planned to actually begin in about a week. So we're on target with that. You look at our forecasted dates right now, the key date is that regression testing that started on the 6th of April. So last week, we're in our 2nd week of regression testing. Teams moving along with no noted roadblocks at this point. From a key implementation activity perspective, we continue to interact with vendors on batch transcripts, penny vendor, and third-party cashiering as needed. And we really have no other issues at time, continue to move forward with implementation. Any questions for me?
Motorist maintenance and FR.
Thank you, Terrence. Our team profile, we have about 5 developers broken out, 3 FT state employees, 2 contract. They're shared amongst regression testing. You'll hear soon about performance testing, and then of course helping assist on any production get ready tasks like security testing, and of course helping support Informatica questions. When we break down, testers are at 2, but they're ramping up in regression testing to a lot more of those. We had like maybe 3 of them this week that actually engaged, and of course the other teams testers will be testing motorist maintenance as part of a validation. So motorist maintenance is pretty the hot topic of regression testing. The enterprise testing summary, you'll see performance testing. The numbers are the same. Last time we met, we have about 24 total. Tests developed, all 24 were developed with using one approach to the testing, concurrent users versus number of transactions per hour. We had to change that in the last couple of weeks, so we had to retool our scripts. In addition, we have to make sure that we run it twice because if any bugs found, we have to address it. So you'll notice that the remaining 12 there are motorist maintenance. Those are the 12 that were open that we have to track. We were targeting for April 17th to complete. We're probably about a week or 2 beyond that, but fingers crossed, we're doing the best we can to get resources to address that, not impact regression testing in the stage environment, but also move that to closure. Security testing, you heard from Joe, collectively all applications will start in a week or 2 in April, towards the end of April, testing their endpoints for security leaks and whatnot. Forecasted key dates in the middle of the presentation slide. You'll notice that we've completed our sprint development. Those CRs that were approved a couple months back, we were supposed to resolve them, complete them. We actually completed them. And then of course, regression prep. We have marked that as done right before starting regression testing, which is April 6th. We did start, and we are in that phase right now, I think till May of May 8th. Fingers crossed we will get that done, completed. Key issues, risk, you'll notice we did close out the external resource gap that we had. Informatica had a couple items that needed to be addressed from the bug perspective, but we made sure that our SEU members were not being blocked. So we've closed that out, and if anything rises up as another key issue, we'll report it to everyone. The key implementation activities, the good news, insurance companies, book of business, 99% of their files are loaded as of the 6th of April. That's 273 companies out of 275. 2 smaller companies are scheduled to complete April 17th. That's when they'll load this Friday, and fingers crossed we get them processed this weekend, and we close that out. Key dependencies, assumptions, making sure we support Informatica, because I think that one is a item we need to address and help from a Motors Management perspective. And then, of course, any change requests at this point could impact us going live. So we consider them as critical exceptions only, or delay them into after phase 1. Any questions, comments for Motors Maintenance FR?
My only comment is great job with the insurance companies. I know we were all, very concerned about, there's so many external things that impact us going live. And of course, the insurance companies, getting them to the point that we could, can go live, that's a big deal. So congratulations to the team on that. I know you and Ray and some of his staff have all been working on that. So great job to everyone who's worked on that.
Yeah, the next time we can celebrate the FR Insurance Liaisons with Pat and Michelle Walker, I think we need to go ahead and celebrate them. Thanks, Terrence. Back to you.
I agree totally. So, all right, next is My DMV Portal.
Okay, good afternoon. My DMV Portal, as far as the team profile, My DMV Portal actually is doing phase 1 and phase 2 work. So our developers are down to like a half, just basically working out any bugs that we find while we're doing regression testing. I think we have about 3 testers. They're going back and forth between phase 1 and 2. As far as the performance testing, we have completed our performance testing, and we too will start up security testing within the next week or 2. Forecast dates in the middle, we're done with development, all of our CR work. We do have 1 CR that we're doing within the phase of regression testing. We started on April the 6th, and we'll continue through May. The team is working on the regression testing, and we are in week 2. We did not complete all our tasks in week 1, so they had to move over to week 2, but they are making progress. Some of the key implementation activities is definitely any core dependency updates that we may have for Portal. We'll continue to review the user guide and make updates to that, as well as support LDO with creating customer service training development. We're addressing any ADA updates that we may have from regression testing. And like I say, we're continuing regression testing. Other key dependencies and assumptions is Informatica testing and any other RAPs or CRs that are considered critical for us to work on. Any questions from My DMV Portal? Okay. SITLIS citation processing, we have about 4 developers and 3 testers. We have completed performance testing for SITLIS citation processing, and we will be looking to start security testing as well in the next week or so, a couple of weeks. Our forecast dates, we are done with development, but we're still continuing to try to work on closing out our last CR. We're trying to get those closed out. We were supposed to be done last week, but we have not. We can say that all the testing is basically done. The review is with the product owners, and they, working through questions and making sure that they have reviewed all the test scenarios that they need to approve closing the CRs. We are also in regression testing, and we are in week 2 of regression testing. And some of those items we moved from week 1 to week 2, but we are making progress. No key risk and issues. Key implementation, we're also conducting AMBER structure testing during this time, and we are in round 2. We completed round 1 last week, and now we're in round 2. Hopefully we will make progress and get that closed within the next week or so. And any any other CRs that may come up, and like I said, we'll continue to do regression testing. And so some of the key dependency is us getting certified by AMBER on 5.3.3. Any questions for SITLIS citation processing? Okay. Going on to the renewal notification team. Basically, we've done, like with the team profile, we don't really have a developer. They come in and out just based on what our needs are. We have about 1 tester. We completed performance testing, and we're now working on regression testing with renewal driving license notifications. We are in week 2. Basically, that will be about all they need for renewal notification. It's 2 weeks of testing. So we will see how they progress this week. No key risk and issues. Key implementation is completing the regression testing. Key dependencies is basically the panic press stability and having no further DL notice changes. Any questions for renewal notification? Thanks.
Okay, next is Informatica. Sherilyn? Sherilyn, are you on?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So good afternoon, everybody. Excuse me, kind of losing my voice. So for the Informatica update, I'll just start with the team profile because we do have some changes for our team profile, which are not reflected here in the blue box at the top left. We have been working with Plant Moran to get them to come on board and help us with some of our work that still has that we still have left to be done. So in addition to the developers that you see here, we have an additional 7 developers that are going to be working with us from Plant Moran, and they've already started the work. And I'll update this for the next meeting. But they've already started working with us on our error handling solution, and they're providing that design for us, and they will be incorporating the design into the workflows that they are working on for the subject areas that they're going to be working on. The team here is working on the core workflows, and Plant Moran is going to be working on developing the non-core workflows for us. And like I said, they've already started working with us on the error handling and also the development of the non-core mappings and workflows.
With
so
this,
for the test,
Cheryl, this is Lisa. How many core tables are there?
We have for the core, as you can see there in that second box on the left, about 54 tables in the core, and total between the core and non-core, there are about 183 tables. And SEU has started testing, or they are testing the core workflows, which are represented by the 54 tables, and they've completed 8 of the tables, testing on 8 of the tables. So that puts them at about 40% complete for testing the core. And if you look back at a previous update, their testing complete was a little bit higher, but that's because they were testing a smaller subset of the tables. But now that they are testing the core, which is represented by 54 tables, that's what makes the percentage look a little bit less, but it's still a good progress that they're making on testing the core, because what they were testing before was push-pull, which is a subset of core. So they have made good progress on testing testing the core. For the MS to DL testing, they are 100% complete on that. Again, MS to DL is a small subset of the mappings for push-pull. It's the one way that goes from the MS to the DL table. And they are 100% complete on that. Kevin Gray is working with us on the seeding validation, and he is now starting officially to test. He's been doing some pre-testing, but he's starting his official testing now, and he's about 5% done with the seeding testing. And if we move to the middle boxes, so our forecasted key dates, there you're seeing we have a date of the middle of May, 5/18, to complete the core mappings, and that includes having the error handling solution integrated for deployment to stage. And we still have to work out a deployment date for production. For the non-core deployment to stage, and that's all of the workflows associated with the non-core subject areas, as well as the error handling included in that, as a date of 5/1, and that's the work again that I mentioned that Plant Moran is working on. And then a production date of July 24th for those non-core workflows to be deployed to production. Our key risk and issues is the one issue that we've been tracking, but again, we have worked with, we've been working with Plant Moran to get additional developers to help with the mapping. So we're making progress on that issue. Key Informatica activities, again, those are pretty standard, they're pretty consistent. We have ISA and SEU helping with the Informatica testing of the mappings and workflows. We have the seed testing going on, and Plant Moran has started working with us on development for error handling and non-core. And our key dependencies and assumptions will continue to be that we have Natasha and Kevin pretty much full-time working with us on testing. And Kevin is also working to get some additional resources to assist him with the validations for the core and the non-core. Any questions anybody has? Okay, thank you so much. Back to you, Terrence.
Okay, now we'll have the communications update. Coral.
Just one item. Lisa, I wanted to say thank you for mentioning Rebecca to test out the OneDrive folder. So I will be posting the phase 1 letters on there for you and Scott Lunsford as requested. Hoping to get to those by the end of the week. So I'll send you both an email and an invitation to that OneDrive folder so that you can review it and see those letters.
All right, great.
The only other item is the communications plans. They were approved by ESC last week. So there's a few items that are in there that have been highlighted that are new. We do have our Change Champion Network Connect meeting this coming Friday. Training. There's a few items on there. The tax collector meeting that happened back in March. The training curricula has been posted on the PartnerNet site now. There's going to be monthly conference calls with the tax collectors hosted by LDO. And then there will be more information about that coming out this month. From a comms perspective, I don't remember if there, Aaron and I are now having weekly stand down meetings due to the COVID outbreak his time has been cut kind of short dealing with that. So him and I are just having weekly stand downs to discuss upcoming items and trying to keep on with materials and calls like that. And then the newsletter that normally goes out, the Orion Hub, is going to be a weekly news bulletin. So I'm working on getting that together. A lot of the information that's in there is going to be posted on SharePoint and PartnerNet for everyone to get to and learn more about a lot of the questions that have come up through the engagement plan meetings with OCM. And then the lunch and learn for motors maintenance is maybe being rescheduled. I'm not really sure. Terrence and CT and Laura are all working on that with LDO. Any questions?
Okay, just a couple of things and we'll be done. Of course, you can see the teams are still working very well, even though everyone is kind of displaced now or working from home and working remotely. But from all accounts, everything I hear is that we're still getting things done, phase one. Of course, Sherilyn gave the Informatica update that there's an impact to our schedule once we figure out what the dates there will be. And of course, we have to have that conversation with the advisory board and with the ESC to see where those impacts are to the schedule. Everything else, like I said, we are moving along fine. No significant roadblocks that I've seen from the teams thus far working remotely, and just want to commend all of the teams for continuing their work on the program. Are there any additional questions?
Terrence, this is Lisa. I know that the rollout of the new equipment has been delayed, the COVID-19 breakout. Is there any effect that that's going to have on us going forward?
The effect there, Lisa, is that we had always determined that we didn't want an install going on at the same time we were trying to install new software. So we need to get with that team to make sure we're structured in a way that we're following. I think what we decided on is that we would follow the equipment refresh. So just we have to go through and just match up the schedules. It may affect our rollout schedule some, but that is the fact. And yes, there will be one. But I think we can manage that. I haven't seen the schedule as how far they are along or what percentage of offices have been completed, but I think we can work through that without, right now at least, without any kind of major impact to the rollout. But we still need to sit down with that team and go through everything. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.